We're gonna hunt some unicorns. Yeah, yeah. Oh, wait. These are like the wrong tools to hunt unicorns. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and learn how to hunt unicorns, and the first thing we need to do in unicorn hunting is figure out how to program. And the first step in programming in my world, which is a Ruby and JavaScript world, is we need to kind of turn on some tools. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is set up my Mac OS X with El Capitan on it to run Ruby and Git and a bunch of other stuff. So if you haven't yet, head to this blog post, startuplandia.io/post/mac-unix-dev-setup. That's a mouthful. And let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to want to do is make sure that you are operating from an admin sort of user profile thingy, right? And there I have a screenshot of me, and let's actually verify that I am working from an admin profile. So see, we have programming motherfucker, right? My handle, and I'm an admin. Yep. So if you're not logged in as an admin, you need to be logged in as an admin, or you're going to have tons of problems down the line, and I don't necessarily want to be on the hook for helping you with those problems. It's just smarter to do things as an admin from the beginning. All right, next step, we're going to go ahead and visit atom.io, and we're going to download this for the Mac. It's going to take 3 minutes to download, so I'm going to stand here and drink some tea. And eventually I am going to edit and fast forward the footage so I could literally be standing here doing anything while this downloads. Bing, bong, bing, bong. Maybe we should do other stuff while that downloads. Yeah, let's do some other stuff while this downloads. No, let's not do some other stuff. We'll just wait for this to download, and then we will install it. Okay, perfect. Atom for Mac has downloaded. Let's go ahead and open it. And let's put it in our application folder, which we can find by doing what I just did. And you can literally just drag it into your applications folder, and let's run it. Let's make sure it's good to go. If you are not allowed to open programs from the internet, you need to change your security settings. Go ahead and Google for allowing other applications for Mac OS X, and you'll find some links. Anyways, just click open, and then you will have Atom installed on your computer. Atom being an amazing text editor from GitHub. Anyways, let's cancel that. Let's Command Q, quit that. Let's close out these Finder windows and keep going with our tooling installation. Okay, so welcome to your new home, the terminal, right? Here I have terminal loaded in the right side of the screen, and I'm actually going to go ahead and quit the terminal, Command Q, and then I'm going to load terminal again, just so you can see how it works. And there you go. The first thing that we want to do is add, let's see, actually, let's look at this. So if we type ls, it shows us the contents of our home directory. And what we're going to do by copy and pasting this command into the command line is we're going to tell our Brash profile, which is some configuration stuff about the terminal. Let's open a new terminal window. Now if we type ls, boom, we have color, we have directory indicators, And most importantly, we can see our hidden configuration files. Now, you might not know what this means now, but trust me, as we begin to dig into real programming learning, you're going to want all three of these things: color, indication of file or directory, and the display of hidden files, because we really want to see everything inside the computer, right? So the next thing we want to do is install Xcode. For the purposes of this demonstration, I cannot install Xcode because I am unwilling to uninstall Xcode. Xcode is a huge file that takes a ton of time to download from Apple, and frankly, I'm not interested in uninstalling it and attempting to reinstall it. Anyways, it's pretty simple to install. If you access your App Store and you just literally type in Xcode in the search bar, the App Store will find Xcode and it will allow you to click on Xcode, and then once it takes its sweet time, and I do mean sweet time, you can click get, and you'll be able to get Xcode installed local on your machine. Installing Xcode can take a lot of time because it's like a 4 or 5 gigabyte 4 or 5 gigs of information, and sometimes from Apple servers that takes quite a long time. So like Xcode could literally take overnight, right? That's not uncommon. The first time I downloaded it back in 2012, it took overnight for certain. Okay, once you have Xcode installed, we need to install Xcode's command line tools. It gives us all kinds of stuff in the developer world, and you want to type xcode-select-install. Feel free, and I almost recommend to cut and paste these commands because you just don't want any typos. See, I got the error, command line tools are already installed, so on and so forth, so I don't need to do that. Now let's just go ahead and verify that our Xcode setup is good to go. Xcode select-P. If you get this feedback from your machine /applications/Xcode contents developer, you are good to go. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is install Homebrew. No, we're not going to be brewing beer. Homebrew is a package manager, which is a kind of software program that grabs information from the internet and downloads it to your local computer. So literally just cut and paste that command, push enter. Mac OS X is asking me for my password so that it can install fancy developer-like software. That's a pretty standard thing. Type in your system password, push enter, and let it go as I just did. Oh, by the way, you do need to be connected to the internet to do all of this. Okay, so let's go ahead and verify that we have Homebrew installed. I think we can do Homebrew brew-v. Yep. Notice we get feedback on the version of Homebrew installed. That's all good. And next thing we're going to do is we're going to install Git, and we're going to use Brew to install Git. So we tell the terminal brew install Git, bing, bang, bung, and Brew goes out to the internet, right? It downloads this file, this tar.gz thing, and it unpacks it, and it does a handful of system things to tell the Mac system that it now has access to this program called Git. Downloading, pouring, kegs, linking. There's all kinds of funny words that the developers of Brew have used. Brew is actually a pretty awesome program, and it will definitely make your life easier over time. So let's check that we have Git installed properly. Git-v did not work, so let's do git-version, and let's go ahead and type this correctly. Git-version. We have 2.92, which is good to go. Okay, so now we want to install rbenv, right? rbenv is a system tool that allows us to control what version of Ruby we have installed in any given moment. And if you are a studious student, which I always like to be, you might initially type ruby-v, and you'll notice that we have Ruby 2 installed, right? And that Ruby in my system comes from a handful of places. It could be the Mac default installed version of Ruby, which we don't necessarily want because we want to have RBN control which Ruby is installed, and then we might want to change it in certain situations. And we can discuss why about that later. Anyways, let's go ahead and brew install rbenv, 3 megabytes, 600K, open SSL. There's all kinds of stuff to install here. And while we're noticing these things, I would like you in the audience to take a moment to realize to install all these programs, I'm actually taking my whole development environment apart. And I can remember when the first time I set up all these development tools, it was really hard. But actually, the process of teaching other people how to do it, now I'm actually, mildly skilled at taking all my development tools out and putting them back in. And you start to realize this stuff isn't arduous as it feels like. The real thing is to always pay attention to documentation and follow instructions, and you'll generally speaking come out a much happier person. Then if you notice in my blog post, our rbenv has installed, let's go ahead and initialize rbenv with this rbenv init command. I don't exactly know what that feedback means. Load rbenv automatically by appending the following to the bash profile eval rbenv.init. So let's go ahead and do what rbenv is telling us to do. Let's type atom and let's open our bash profile. And that will open the bash profile file in Atom, the text editor we just built, and we can literally just paste in that line rbenv init, and now I'm going to save that, and I'm going to close this, and I'm going to close Atom. And now back in our terminal, I'm going to open a new terminal to get changes. And let's see, let's go ahead and do something like rbenv-v. We have rbenv1, and let's find out rbenv install-l will tell us all the Ruby versions that we can install. And I would like to install Ruby 2.3.0, so I'm going to copy and paste that. And then I'm basically going to type rbenv install, and then I'm going to paste the version 2.3.0. You can type it as well. Let that fly. This actually takes a few minutes to install because the Ruby binaries are quite large. Tai Chi is amazing, and studying martial arts is really interesting because unlike programming, where I've actually begun to progress and grow as a developer, as a martial artist, in a way, because I don't get into fights and I don't frequently have to defend myself, there's no way to ever actually progress. And so it's a really interesting and intriguing way for me to continually expose myself to an environment where I actually have no skill. And the process of understanding how to become comfortable with myself in an environment where I have no inherent skill is actually really powerful, because I've started to learn as a teacher that I learn the most when I become the most comfortable embracing uncertainty. And as a student, uh, it pretty much works the same way. And so, one of my roles as a teacher and an instructor of how to help people code and hunt unicorns is really a process of helping them understand how to become more comfortable with their uncertainty. And for that, martial arts is just really wow, like mind blowing. It's like an entire evolution in understanding how to build a tighter relationship with things I don't understand. This installation is taking forever. Ah, look, here we go. We now have Ruby 2.3.0 installed on our machine. Let's go ahead and verify by typing ruby-v what version of Ruby we're using. Interestingly enough, we're still using Ruby 2.0 because we have yet to tell our system to use Ruby 2.3. So let's go ahead and set a global version of Ruby. First thing we want to do is make a directory .rbenv. So we already actually have that. And what we want to do is create a version file, which will happen naturally when we type this echo 2.3. We're going to send that into the .version file. Okay, so now if we look at the contents cat.rbenv version, we know that we have 2.3 installed. Let's go ahead, open another terminal window and type ruby-v, and oh, interesting, version 2.3 is not installed, set by yada yada yada. What did we install? 2.3.0. So let's actually manually edit .rbenv version, and we're going to do that in Atom, and let's make that 2.3.0. Let's save that, and let's close this Atom window, and let's open another terminal window, and let's go to our home directory. Here we are in our home directory, and let's type ruby-v, and hopefully, bingo, Ruby 2.3.0, right? Let's look at git-v, git-version, and we have brew-v, and we are ready to roll. Perfect. Now that we have our basic tools installed, let's go ahead and install Bundler. Gem install Bundler, right? You've probably never heard of Bundler before, but Bundler is a very useful Ruby gem that will help Ruby programs manage other types of Ruby code that we want to have installed and used in those programs. Ultra useful, and Bundler is pretty much the most required gem to have installed to use the other landscape of Ruby gems. And for reference, gem is a fancy word for another packaged library of code. So you could just think gem library, right? What's a library? A library is just more code. Wait, so you're telling me that code just uses more code? Yes, turtles all the way down. Anyways, we can verify that we have installed Bundler by typing gem list bundler, if I could only type. And we've got 1.2.15. Okay, so now we're pretty much done with all the tooling, right? That was pretty easy, right? Let's just go ahead and tinker with some Unix basics, right? pwd tells us our current directory, right? Let's say I want to go up one level in the file structure. I can go cd .. and that takes us up to the users directory from user/jd, right? I could also go into jd by typing cd jd, and it's like, oh wow, where are we now? What if for some reason the screen got cleared out and you didn't know where you are? We can type pwd again, user/jd. Let's go ahead and make a directory, mkdir, right? And let it put in our home directory, which is indicated by the little tilde slash, and let's call it unicorn hunting. Yeah, and then let's go into unicorn hunting. Yeah, and oh look, there's nothing in our directory. So let's create a file, touch the file name. Let's call it unicorns. We'll do plural.rb. Boom, right? And now if we look at our directory, we have unicorns.rb file. Now let's go ahead and add some code to unicorns.rb. So let's Atom, right, calls the Atom program, and then we're going to tell Atom, hey, open unicorns.rb, right? And hopefully this will work properly. Atom, Atom, Atom. It didn't work. It worked. Perfect. So let's use a Ruby command, p, right? Nah, let's do something else. We'll do like 1,100 gajillion thousand dot times do n, right? We're opening a Ruby block, and we're going to print we're going to do some string interpolation, n unicorns to be hunted. And I am a little nervous about using the word hunting, but I do believe that in Startup Landia, a lot of people are hunting unicorns. Whether or not you personally want to become a unicorn hunter is an ethical question that you need to take up for yourself. It is mostly just an analogy that I will be using throughout these videos to keep things fun and interesting. Because let's be honest, in the land of Startup Landia, if you're not having fun, you're probably really doing something wrong. So here we are. Let's look at the content of our unicorns file. We can do cat unicorns.rb. Look, and it shows us our Ruby code. Let's actually run our program. Oh my gosh. Wow. That's a lot of unicorns. I feel like maybe my system at some point in time will like, whoa, that's just going to go on forever. That's what 100 million gajillion unicorns must look like. Anyways, I don't really want this to finish, so I'm just going to push Control C, which interrupts the program. Yes, you can interrupt a program and nothing bad will happen. It's amazing. So since we don't really care about hunting unicorns, let's clear out our screen by pushing Command K. Boom! Here we are back to a clear screen. Where are we? We are in our unicorn hunting directory. Okay, so that's pretty much the basic tooling setup. A couple useful Max OSX details, right? Just like when we are in our home directory, if we want to see all these interesting hidden files by typing ls, when you open Finder, you also want to be able to see interesting hidden files, right? And if I go to JD, my home directory, you see that I have all these different dot files loaded, which you might not have loaded on your computer, but my computer is configured properly. You can configure your computer properly by cutting and pasting and running this command, defaultsright.com. Let's just do that. Hopefully my computer won't blow up. Perfect. And kill all Finder is just a way basically to restart the Finder program. And hopefully I'll restart Finder and there won't be any weird problems. Okay, perfect. Everything looks good to go. I've got hidden files, so on and so forth. That's good. And the other thing I think you should all seriously consider is you might notice how I'm like flipping my tiles back and forth in the screen, and I'm doing things like maximizing, and I'm not touching my mouse or anything, and look, I can even change the position of windows. Let me tell you, this is an extremely time-enhancing maneuver that very much so reduces the cognitive load of programming. And one thing you always want to be thinking about as a programmer is, how do I do more with less cognitive input, which is essentially the fundamental principle behind all machine programming. And so Mac doesn't inherently have it, or at least I'm not aware of it at this time, a way to naturally dock your windows and move them around. And there's this program out there called SizeUp that is amazing, and it's what I use, and it's this. You can see it, preferences, shortcuts, advanced, all that stuff, general, about SizeUp. It costs $12 and it's amazing. Shell out the money, it'll really save you a ton of time. Okay, I'm John Davison. I am the founder and CEO of Startuplandia, and that was an extremely brief but funny overview of how to install a Ruby toolchain toolkit. I get confused which word to use. Anyways, how to install a Ruby toolchain on Mac OS X El Capitan. Have a great evening.